won't be wasting too much time. I'll be very eager to take questions. I'll be speaking on around 6, 7 topics. And my main interest will be to update on how to have a good diet, nutrition, and if possible, we'll discuss something about the exercise also. Now, I am a gastroenterologist. I'm based in Baroda. I'm already around 5 Ironmans. The last one being in Porbandar this year, around 2, 3 months back. And this is the latest of my achievements. Plus, I do my own endoscopies. I work at International Gastro Institute and I am sponsored by Lignite Care. It's a pharmaceutical nutraceutical company. This was me around 15 years ago, around 115, 110 kilos, and now I'm 69 to 73. That's my range. I have started this Rokham, it's a lifestyle reversal center where I try to use diet and exercise to help my patients in the management of their diseases like fatty liver, diabetes reversal, blood pressure, ischemic heart disease, dyslipidemias, uric acid, so on and so forth. So we had these questions with us, what side of diet should be taking. So we'll try to cover this one after the other. Before we know what sort of diet we should be taking, we should always know how is your health, what is your baseline health, and that's very important. So why do we need food? Food we need for anabolism, that is for growth, for energy, and for protecting ourselves against various diseases. Nowadays, food has also become a source of social bonding. We usually meet and socialize over food and drinks. And food gives us pleasure by releasing the dopamine in the brain. So that way, these are two non-essential needs of the food which the body has. The most important macronutrient that we all eat is carbohydrate. And the carbohydrate, as we all know, is a group of monosaccharides, which is glucose, fructose, and galactose. Disaccharides, which are dextroses, sucroses, and lactose. So lactose being the milk disaccharide, sucrose being the sugar disaccharide. Polysaccharides are the most commonly present carbohydrates, either starch, amylose, and amylopectin. Cellulose fiber is also a polysaccharide, but that are not absorbed by the human gastrointestinal tract. So the first question which we usually take up is what sort of carbohydrate rich meal we should take. It should be millets or wheat or it should be rice. Now, the carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth itself using the salivary amylase. Then there's a gastric amylase and the pancreatic amylase. So it's not like the fats where the digestion starts also always in the small intestine. Whatever glucose enters the intestines and is broken down and is absorbed by the intestines into the portal vein. The important thing to note here is glucose stimulates the release of insulin from the pancreas because this portal vein directly drains into the liver through the pancreas. So insulin immediately is released from the pancreas in response to a glucose load. This insulin causes the glucose to enter the various cells of the body. So the main function of insulin is to store this glucose or use it as an energy source. So insulin directs this glucose inside the cell. This glucose has to be cleared from the blood because the glucose itself is toxic. It leads to glycation, which is also known as Maillard reaction. Whatever blackishness you see when you fry something or roast something is the combination of glucose with proteins. That is the Maillard reaction. That is the blackishness, the crunchy feeling of the food is this Maillard reaction. So glucose is toxic. It has to be cleared, and so insulin does the job. It helps in clearing this glucose into the various cells of the body. The most important, the muscle cells and the fat cells. But what happens if the insulin remains high? If the insulin remains high, the glucose which is pushed into the cells is stored as fat. If the insulin is low, this glucose cannot be stored as fat and has to be burned for energy. So this is a very important concept all of you should understand and remember by heart day in and day out. When the insulin is high, glucose is stored as fat. When the insulin is low, glucose is burnt as energy. So if you want to prevent the storage of glucose, you should have a low insulin levels. The high level of activity, if you have a high level of activity like exercise, even without insulin release, the glucose can enter the cells. So these are three important concepts you should remember. High insulin, glucose is stored as fat. Low insulin, glucose is used up for energy. High level of activity, we do not need insulin at all. So now we come to the concept of glycemic index and glycemic load. Where is the rise of glucose with various food substances known as glycemic index, and the load is also the same, but we won't go into so much details. A rapid rise of glucose and subsequently a rapid rise of insulin indicates a high glycemic load and a high glycemic index of that particular food. This rapid rise of glucose or a high glycemic index and load is a cause of big concern because it leads to rapid and more insulin resistance. A more and rapid insulin resistance secretion will ultimately lead to insulin resistance. Again, a very important concept. This more glucose in the blood is toxic. When there is glucose rising in the blood and then the insulin also rises, this glucose is pushed into the fat cells and is stored instead of being burned as energy. And most importantly, if you have rapid rise of glucose, a high secretion of insulin, this rapid rise is followed by a rapid falls, and this leads to hunger pangs. So anything which has a high glycemic index and a high glycemic load leads to rapid rise of glucose, rapid rise of insulin, storage of that glucose as fat, and then rapid fall leading to hunger pangs. So things which have a lower glycemic load are very important because they will lead to a less rise of glucose, a less secretion of insulin, less storage of fat, and less hunger pangs. And this is true with millets. Millets which are bajra, jowar, ragi, kodri, kodo millets, they have a lower glycemic index. The glycemic index of these millets is in the 50s as compared to rice and wheat, which is in the 70s. Other things are they contain more fiber, they more amylose being more resistant to digestion as compared to amylopectin. So, and these things are responsible for this lower glycemic index and glycemic load. In addition, the fiber in these millets promotes the production of short chain fatty acids from the gut microbiota. And this is also responsible for release of endogenous GLP-1. As we all know about GLP-1 nowadays. Endogenous GLP-1 is stimulated by fiber. Satiety is stimulated by fiber, and fiber is a probiotic. Better mineral profile, better protein profile, better vitamin profile of millets. So these are the advantages of millets over wheat and rice, which have been genetically modified in the last 50 years to increase their production in the farmlands. So the wheat and rice nowadays have lower fiber, higher starch, more nutrients, more refined, and are pro-inflammatory because of the gluten in the wheat. So the first question to be answered is, millets is any day better than rice and wheat. If you can decrease the wheat intake and rice intake and use millets instead, your glycemic index and glycemic load will be low, insulin secretion will be low, the fat storage will be decreased, and insulin resistance will be decreased. And in addition, you get better fiber, better minerals, and better probiotics. Now, before we move on to the second question, which is about animal protein and plant protein, I think we can take questions, Dr. Chetna, on the first part. Any questions anyone wants to answer? You can unmute and ask the questions.
Members can raise their hands and ask the question if they have for this first part of the meeting.
Ashish, millets can be the same quantity as wheat, or we have to reduce the quantity of millets?
Presently discussing about the quantity of food. Basically, that's a big question itself in those people who want to lose weight. But just first, a person first will discuss the quality wise. Okay, if you want a better quality of food, then millets will be any day better than wheat and rice. Whether you want to decrease from 2 or 3 rotis of wheat to 1 roti of jawar and bajra, that can happen by itself because going to decrease the amount of insulin secretion. You are going to take more fiber. So the satiety factor will be more with millet. So the quantity of wheat of rotis as such will go down if you going to eat millets.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we move on to the second question of animal proteins versus plant proteins versus milk protein. The milk protein contains, or the animal or the milk protein, which are almost the same. They have a better amino acid profile as compared to plant protein. They contain all essential amino acids. There is very good bioavailability of animal proteins because there is no fiber or anti-nutrient like oxalates or lignins. Better and faster absorption of animal proteins. So less amount is required to fulfill the body's needs. Leucine is in ideal amount because leucine is the one which stimulates the muscle growth. So you can see animal proteins and milk proteins are almost a perfect protein. What are the points to be considered when you are consuming plant proteins? Usually they require more consumption because their bioavailability is only 70%. So if you eat 50 grams of plant protein, body will get only 35 grams of that inside the blood. While animal proteins, 50% or 50 grams will be absorbed almost. Secondly, the animal proteins are more slow, the plant proteins are more slowly absorbed. But if you eat a proper plant protein balanced diet, the amino acid requirements will be almost fulfilled. So though individually the plant proteins may not contain all the amino acids, but if you eat a combination of cereals and pulses and vegetables, then almost all the amino acid requirements are fulfilled. So what should I tell you? Let me discuss first about milk. Milk is a very major source of proteins for all of us. It contains basically two proteins, casein, which is 80% of the milk, and whey, which is 20%. Most of the protein powders which are available with us are whey. Why so? Because whey is the most rapidly absorbed form of protein. Within 30 minutes, the whey which you eat enters the blood circulation, and almost all essential amino acids are present in whey in the right quantity. So which protein is best? So I don't believe that plant protein is inferior to animal protein. The important thing is to take sufficient quantity, more important than time. 15% of your body energy requirement should be around protein. So approximately if you are doing 200 kilocalories of daily intake, 300 calories should be coming from proteins, which is equal to around 75 grams of protein. Other way of saying is around 1.5 gram of kg body weight. So you are 70 kg, around 100 grams of protein. But if you do not eat 100 grams, you are going to lose muscles or you have to become worse off. It's not that important. Body can build muscles, or your body can do with even lower protein intake. So ideally it should be 1.5, but even 1.2 and 1 gram per kg is sufficient. Another thing important to note in proteins is ideally you should take 25 grams of protein with each meal. If you take less proteins with each meal, like 15 grams or 20 grams, then you are not optimizing your muscle growth. So ideally you should take 25 grams of protein with each meal. So if you require around 100 grams of proteins per day, you will require 4 meals ideally. If you require 75 grams, then 3 meals will be sufficient. But we'll discuss this in detail in question and answer stage. So more important than the plant and animal protein, exercise. Because if you do exercise, then whatever protein you take is going to be used for building muscles. It is not going to be used for calories or will not be stored in the body. So exercise in the form of strength training or gym training is more important than high protein intake. If you do not do exercise and just take proteins, then this protein will be stored as fat and will not be used to build muscles. So the answer to the question is both animal and plant proteins are okay. Animal proteins being a little bit better, but more important than taking the large amount of protein is to do exercise, especially strength training, so that the proteins you are using is used for building muscles and not stored as fat in the body. So anything regarding the proteins before we move on to the next question of breakfast? What should be a good ideal breakfast? So I have a question here on
So there's a question, best brand in both the categories. And we have some questions from the previous round also. Can we answer that first? Hello. Hello.
Can you repeat the questions, please?
Yeah, yes, sir. I'm asking from the previous round also. If we eat millets, it remains heavy. So whether rice is better than wheat?
Okay, the millets, there is nothing better than millets as compared to rice and wheat. So, but those people who do not tolerate millets can always do a mixture of millets, millets and wheat. So, multigrain, what we call it, which is a common way of eating. And secondly, those who are not able to tolerate millets at all, for them, I would advise that rice and wheat are almost equal. The glycemic index of rice and wheat is almost equal. There's a hack of eating rice in the sense that if you eat cold rice, the rice which is prepared in the morning, and you eat it cold in the night, the glycemic index is decreased. Means your sugar level does rise less as compared to a hot rice. So that is a hack you can have. So if you are not able to take millets, then the best way is to decrease the amount of wheat and rice. So if you take only one roti and or a small quantity of rice, avoid both of them together. Take either a small quantity of rice, take a small roti, and then eat a lot of vegetables and dal and other things rather than concentrate only on carbohydrate-rich cereals. So that is my answer for those people who cannot tolerate millets.
And what about fresh juice, sir?
Juices are the worst form of diet. I don't like juices, especially fruit juices. They do not have any fiber. They are pure sucrose. So I consider them as bad as alcohol. So I ask people to avoid juices in all forms. In case you want to take vegetable soups, what we call, that's still okay because they don't have fructose. But other fruit juices are the worst form of food intake, as bad as alcohol.
So we have one more question on proteins. Suppose
Yes.
for 50 grams of protein every day, how much milk should we take? Or if we take eggs, how many to take?
Now, each egg contains around 6, depending on the size, 5 to 7 grams of proteins. Each milk glass contains around 8 to 10 grams of proteins. So you can imagine each dal contains around 5 to 10 grams of proteins, depending on which dal you are using. So I would, instead of concentrating that, try to keep your protein intake to around 1 gram per kg body weight. 70 grams, 60 grams, female says 50, 60 grams, but try to do strength training. Instead of concentrating too much on protein intake, try to do strength training. If you are able to do strength training, even a little bit less than normal amount of protein will help you in building muscles. But if you combine a good amount of protein with strength training, then it will be excellent in the sense you will be building muscles much better. So I would always concentrate on strength training rather on optimizing the amount of protein intake. Anywhere between 0.8 to 1.5 grams is sufficient.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, now I think we'll move on to the next. Where is my screen gone? Okay, I'll share it again. I think I lost it. Okay. Now we'll start with this breakfast ideas. Very important because most of the people have a tendency to eat a very carbohydrate-rich breakfast. So I just could go on to that. Usually your morning is from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. The contour regulatory hormones like growth hormone, corticolamines, cortisol are at their highest. And they induce glucose release from the liver by gluconeogenesis, preparing the body for that normal activity in the morning. So your insulin levels also go high in the morning. So your body also already has a higher amount of glucose, which you can see in our patients. Fasting glucose levels are usually high in many of us because the body is preparing itself for a new day in the morning. So in these high glucose levels, if you eat a high carbohydrate breakfast, your glucose levels will also increase, and this will further increase your insulin levels. So the breakfast should not be carbohydrates. The breakfast should be basically proteins. So what is the best form of breakfast? The best form of breakfast will be milk or sprouts. So anything which is based on milk items, which we do normally, which is very good, but no parathas, no rotis, no khakras, no mamras, nothing in the morning, because these are all carb-rich breakfast. Even poha and upma are also carb-rich, but the advantage of poha and upma, they also contain a lot of fiber. So that is the advantage of poha and upma you can take while eating breakfast, but try to concentrate on a protein-rich breakfast. The best breakfast being sprouts. So avoid wheat flours and rye-based items in breakfast. Whey protein is one of the best things to be taken in breakfast, especially those who are doing exercise, because 25 grams of protein per scoop is there. This is very optimum. So these muscles are very sensitive to proteins in the morning because the growth hormone levels are high. So if you do exercise and take a good amount of protein, either through meal or through whey protein mixture, we can build muscles in a much better way. So you should take a protein-rich breakfast of eggs, or of milk, or of besan or gram flour based, or of sprouts. So these are the very good breakfast ideas. Also peanuts, dry fruits, these are good options in breakfast. Try to avoid very heavy rice or wheat-based items. So this is a very important discussion on breakfast. Anyone wants to answer anything on breakfast? Question, Chetna, anything is there? Anyone wants to question anything on breakfast?
No question yet, sir.
So we'll move on to the next of fasting. So the fasting means the body doesn't have any external energy intake. The body uses stored glycogen or fat, which I call its bank balance. Body has a lot of glycogen, lot of fat, as stored as not a lot of glycogen, only 1 day of glycogen and 90 days of fat. So 3 months of fat is stored in the body and 1 day of glycogen. That's the bank balance, current account and savings account. Glycogen being the current account and fat being the savings account. So a lot of energy is stored in the body, and this energy is used in fasting. Fasting in between the meals of between 4 to 6 hours helps in bringing down the insulin rise which has occurred after a food to come to baseline. Very important. If you eat very frequently, the insulin which rises after the meal will not come to the baseline and will remain elevated. And when you eat again, the insulin will go again higher. So if you allow the insulin to come back to normal between two meals, the insulin sensitivity will be improved, the insulin levels will decrease. So try to keep a gap of between 4 to 6 hours between two meals. And each meal means any meal which has at least 15 calories is a meal. So even tea which you drink, is a meal. A biscuit which you take is a meal. A chaas which you take is a meal, though less as compared to the tea. So anything which you eat between two meals is a meal. Don't think that tea is nothing, it is just the tea. Suppose you have had a morning breakfast and a tea at 11 o'clock, that 11 o'clock is a meal. So if you take anything between two meals, the insulin will rise and the advantage of this fasting will go away. If you have chronically high insulin levels, you eat 5 or 6 meals a day, you have breakfast, you have tea, you have lunch, then you again have tea or evening snacks and again dinner, you will have chronically high insulin levels. They will lead to insulin resistance, metabolic disease like diabetes and obesity, PCOD, cancers, atherosclerosis, and hypertension. So this is the disadvantages of having chronically high insulin levels. So best way of bringing down insulin levels is by fasting. And fasting has an important characteristics. It also leads to autophagy, which we'll discuss sometimes later, or when you want in the questions and answer sessions. What are the problems which we face with fasting? Can you see that you have muscle loss with fasting? You can have if you do not do proper exercise. Stress, for some people, fasting can be a stress. There will be release of stress hormones. You can have fatigue and tiredness, and this happens in those people who do not have the capacity to burn fat. You have a lot of fat stored in your body as a savings account, but your mitochondria have become so poor because the fat is burned in the mitochondria, the glucose is burned in the cytoplasm. Your mitochondria cannot use this fat store. And so after 3-4 hours, you start becoming fatigued, tired, and you start eating something. This is what happens when you cannot live, you do not have that ability to remain fasting for 4 to 6 hours. Some people have headaches, hunger pangs, loss of pleasure, mineral and vitamin disturbances. So how do we overcome these problems? Start slow. Don't start fasting very initially for long hours. Move from 12 hours to 16 hours and sometimes do 24-hour fast. If you want to avoid a meal, avoiding the evening meal is the best. During the fasting period, in between those two meals, if you feel hungry, drink a lot of waters and salts, take magnesium tablets. You can use green tea, black coffee, nimbu pani, and occasionally you can also use MCT oil, chas, and vegetable soup. So these are the options. If you cannot remain fasting between two meals, even for 4 to 6 hours. So this is the best way. Try to space out between 4 to 6 hours between two meals. Do not eat anything. Try to have a good breakfast, have a good lunch and a good dinner, and nothing in between. If you want to eat something, use green tea or black coffee. So what I advise is try to restrict yourselves to 2 meals to 3 meals a day. For the fourth meal, we'll discuss it later on. I already mentioned the importance of breakfast, whether the breakfast is at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, it doesn't matter. The first meal of the day should always be protein rich. Dr. Chetna, anything else? Anyone wants to ask any questions?
Yes, sir. There are some questions.
Okay.
Okay, so one is eating like king in morning is a myth.
Eating
like king in morning is a myth.
No, it's not a myth. It's a good thing. I want a morning. You can have I would say the best. If you want to skip a meal, you skip breakfast. So that's what I mentioned. It's not like you can eat, but the first meal can be anything. It's not like breakfast means at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Whatever is the first meal of the day is the breaking of the fast. That's the breakfast. And the first meal should be a protein-rich meal, whether it's eggs or milk or dry fruits and chana or singdana or whatever you wish, but it should not be carb rich because the body at that time also already has a little bit higher insulin levels, little bit higher glucose on in gluconeogenesis mode. So it's better to have a very good protein rich meal, very sensitive to muscle forming in the morning because the growth hormone level is also high. So try to take a protein-rich first meal. So it's important. Eat right a king, but don't like. It's not for some people. Dinner is very important. Like some people, like doctors like you, NSS, who come home with the family at 8 o'clock and then have dinner with their family. For them, skipping the evening night meal is difficult. For them, skipping the breakfast is much easier. So it's not like it's a hard and fast rule. The first meal should be good, but it's not like breakfast is a must for life.
So you've already given alternatives for the different types of protein intakes. So one query was milk sometimes doesn't suit. So you've already given the answer for that. And the other query is what's the ideal time for having breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
There's no ideal time. It all depends on the working schedule. I cannot be very hard and fast about it. There's no limit like after waking up, you should eat breakfast within 2 hours or 1 hour or 3 hours or 4 hours. Whenever you are comfortable. Some people eat after immediately after getting up, they take a tea. But what I'd advise all the people is don't distribute your breakfast over 3 hours, like tea in the morning and then some dry fruits or biscuits. Then 2 hours later, again taking something like poha or upma. So that is two breakfasts in the morning. Two meals you have already taken in the morning. That is what I want people to avoid. I don't want people to say that if you want to take at 8 o'clock breakfast, take 8 o'clock, but finish everything in one sitting. Don't distribute it over two sittings.
There's one query. One theory says taking of frequent meals. So what should we do?
That is the worst thing. Worst thing. The most worst thing a person can do to himself after eating too much of sugar is taking very frequent meals, which I've already mentioned. If you don't have a gap of between 4 to 6 hours between two meals, your insulin is always going to remain high. And when insulin is going to remain high, you are going to develop insulin resistance. So that's the worst thing you can do to your body is to eat 5 or 6 times a day.
Okay. The other thing is protein X powder or Bonvita is okay for breakfast?
That is the most useless thing because they both contain sugars. Both are processed foods. I would avoid you to have any sort of processed foods. No Bonvita for children also. No Protein X for children. No Maggi for children. Occasionally it's okay. Like once in a while, 10 days. Try to be as much unprocessed as possible.
Right. And evening meal is required to have a good sleep.
It's not like that. Some people require an evening meal. I mean to say that try to have only 3 meals a day. Don't make it 5 or 6 meals a day. Take a good lunch, take a good breakfast, take a good dinner. That's all. If you keep a gap of 3 hours between the dinner and the sleep, that is the best thing you can do. A gap of 3 hours so that you do not go to sleep when your body is producing a lot of sugar in the blood. You are already in a high sugar state. So ideally, you should have digested the meal when you go to sleep.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now we move on to the number of meals we have discussed. So which fat, which is the most important question which people ask is what is the fat? What fat I should ghee I should use, oil I should use? Just let me tell you something. The fats can be saturated, like ghee is a saturated fat, monounsaturated or omega-9 fat, that is olive oil, and polyunsaturated, that is omega-3 and omega-6. Now, try to remember this slide. The bad fats are trans fats. So anything which is trans fat, most of the items of bakery contain trans fats. Oxidized fats, which is the fats have become damaged because of an attachment of an oxygen molecule, are the two bad fats, trans fats and oxidized fats. Oxidized fats are usually polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs, which are fried and then they become oxidized and they are responsible for atherosclerosis and also damage to the endothelium. So these are the two bad fats. The fats which are present in bakery items and the fat which are present in fried items, fried foods. These are the two worst form of fats. The good fats are omega-3, that is olive oil or mustard oil, which are anti-inflammatory, and MUFA, which is again olive oil. Omega-3 is not olive oil. Omega-3 basically is in Indian settings is mustard oil, and fish, which is not so much common used in Gujarat, but in the coastal areas, it's a very good source of omega-3. And what we can discuss is saturated fats and omega-6 PUFAs, which are present in seed oils. We'll go into these details. So basically, what is omega-3 and omega-6? They are two different forms of polyunsaturated fats. Ideally, we should consume omega-3 and omega-6 in the ratio of 1:1. But nowadays, because of consumption of the vegetable oils like groundnut oil, corn drop oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, all these are omega-6 rich. The ratio nowadays is 20:1. So what you are doing when you are consuming too much of omega-6, the last line of this slide, omega-6 are pro-inflammatory. The only advantage of omega-6 is they decrease the LDL. So they have been promoted like heart healthy, but they are very much pro-inflammatory. So ideally, the ratio of omega-3 and omega-6 should be 1:1. But if you fry, they will become oxidized, both of them. And when they are processed in the what we use as a refined oil, this is basically they are processed oils. They also are becoming oxidized. Omega-3 is basically fish oil, which is DHA and EPA, and the omega-3 present in vegetarian products are walnuts, seeds, and palak. They contain a omega-3 which is known as ALA. The disadvantage of this plant omega-3s, their bioavailability is less. Still, the best plant omega-3s are olive oil and mustard oil. So basically, we have three sources of omega-3 with us. We have fish, we have oils like mustard and olive, and some plant products like walnuts, that is akroot, seeds, and palak. So this try to remember, because omega-3 are without doubt one of the best oils to eat. The omega-6 is present in all the oils which we eat nowadays, is omega-6. And this is the distribution of various oils. I don't know whether you realize the first is ghee. Ghee contains basically saturated fat and then some amount of MUFAs, hardly any PUFAs. A better slide will be this. So try to see the mustard oil. The mustard oil or sarson ka tel, which is more commonly used in North India and Eastern India, which has very good amount of MUFAs, monounsaturated fats like olive oil. It has good amount of MUFAs, 33, very good amount of omega-3. So it's one of the best oil in Indian settings. In Gujarat, people use groundnut oil. In groundnut oil, the MUFA is reasonable, but the omega-3 is very low. So that is the disadvantage of using groundnut oil. So basically, if you combine groundnut oil and mustard oil, this combination alternating one day, 1 week, or 1 month after the other, this provides one of the best combinations. Use of mustard oil and groundnut oil in a single household. So what are the problems? What do feel that fat is bad? Why the concept has gone in? Fat intake leads to weight gain. Second concept is saturated fats increase the risk of heart disease because they increase the LDL cholesterol. And polyunsaturated fats are like oils are good for the heart because they decrease the LDL. Now let me answer these three questions. Fats are calorie dense, and so because they provide 9 calories, so you become fat by eating fat. That's not so. In fact, no study is showing that high fat diet leads to obesity. Fats are the storage form of all extra energy in the body, and fat doesn't lead to increase in insulin. So fat doesn't lead to insulin resistance. In fact, fat causes early satiety, decreases the limit oral intake, and can generate ketone bodies which can suppress the hunger. So fats are good as such for the body. So why the question? So first question I'll answer is fat doesn't lead to obesity. The second question I would like to answer is what is bad? Saturated fat like ghee is bad or oil is bad? So the problem was that ghee is bad, or saturated fat is bad, arose because there was a study conducted by Ansel Keys around 50, 60 years back. They found that saturated fat or intake can lead to increased levels of LDL, and that LDL leads to atherosclerosis. On the other hand, polyunsaturated fat oils need to fall in LDL, so polyunsaturated fats are good. This was a reason why oils were promoted instead of fats. Is this true? It is just understand why atherosclerosis occurs. The endothelium is damaged, then the LDL. So first the endothelial damage should occur, then the LDL will enter the arterial wall. So what are the reasons for this endothelial damage? Hypertension, smoking, and see the third, stress, body inflammation, and insulin resistance. So only if the first 5 things are there, then only the LDL will cause a problem. So if you don't have hypertension, do not smoke, reasonable amount of stress is, body is not in inflammatory state, no diabetes or insulin resistance, LDL is absolutely safe. So you should focus on the first 4 things rather than on the LDL. A complicated slide. Simple way of saying is avoid oxidizing fats, avoid frying, avoid use cold pressed oils because processed oils contain a lot of oxidized oils. Saturated fats are not to be feared in a metabolically healthy individual because they won't cause atherosclerosis. And mustard oil and olive oil remain the best among the oils. And combination of mustard and groundnut is one of the best combinations a household can use, especially if you can use cold pressed or kachi khani instead of processing them. Any questions on the oils?
Yes, sir. First is, which edible oil is good for daily homemade cooking?
I already answered. Mustard
Yes,
oil
sir.
is the
Yes,
best
sir.
oil.
Yes, sir. The second is
Olive oil
regarding
also good.
protein.
Yes.
Should we consume it before exercise or gym or within 30 minutes of exercise or gym?
No, there is no timing to be there. Should consume with the meal you are taking after the exercise. Like you are exercising and then half an hour later you are taking a breakfast, or 2 hours later you are taking a dinner or a lunch. Your body remains sensitive to protein intake for 24 to 48 hours after the exercise. So you exercise today morning and you take a protein rich meal in the night, that protein rich will be used for building the muscle. So there is no importance of the timing of the protein intake. It should be within the next 24 hours after the exercise, not within half an hour or within 2 hours.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we move on to why can we not have a perfect diet? So the question one asks me that what should be my diet? But it's not like each person of us is different. Each has his own genetics. Epigenetics means the microbiome we are having, the atmosphere being brought up, the pollution or the environment we face. So we have our own genetics, the own epigenetics. So no diet is perfect for all. So always try to customize. Try to use the clinical and lab parameters. So what are these parameters which we touched upon initially? So always look at your abdominal circumference. This remains the best way of looking at your body, the abdominal circumference. Ideally, the abdominal circumference should be half of your height or less. The abdominal circumference being measured just below your ribs and above your iliac crest. If suppose your height is 67 inches and abdominal circumference is less than 33.5 inches, you are metabolically healthy. So there is the easiest way of saying that you do not have any visceral fat storage and any insulin resistance. So if you have good muscle mass, your waist circumference is less, your blood pressure is normal, which is a marker of stress, you are metabolically healthy. Then diet doesn't become very important for you. Other way of looking at is lab parameters, because most of us are metabolically unhealthy, where the waist circumference is more than our half of your height. Like your height is 67 inches and your waist circumference is 36 inches. That means you are having visceral fat, visceral obesity, fatty liver. So in that case, you can go for lab parameters, look at the sugars, the uric acid, thyroid, cholesterol, create liver functions, plasma insulin, and CRPs. These are the best lab parameters for defining your overall health. If these lab parameters are within normal limits, and we can discuss the normal limits later on, then you are metabolically healthy. Then diet, whatever diet you are taking is good for you. Then we do not need to go too much into diet. But if these lab parameters or these physical parameters are not up to the mark, then you should monitor your diet. Like you should make changes. Like in some people, LDL will lead to increase in saturated fats. And those people who are insulin resistant, diabetic, their endothelial lining is damaged. This LDL will lead to atherosclerosis. So these people, they cannot consume too much of saturated fats. So it's always customized according to the metabolic status you are having. So one side doesn't fit all. But what are the things I usually advise when you follow the diet? Try to take 3 or 4 meals, 3 or less meals a day. Don't take more than 3 meals. A fourth meal to be taken, and only those people who are having a lot of visceral fat and are thin, means their muscle mass is very less, because the fourth meal is required for a good protein intake, because you cannot have a good result if you are eating more than 25 grams of protein per meal. So if you want to reach 100 grams of protein, sometimes you require a fourth meal. And secondly, you're having reflux disease. So those two group of peoples will require a fourth meal. Secondly, if an anti-inflammatory condition you are having, like inflammatory condition like autoimmune disease or something, then you may require an anti-inflammatory meal. The foods we will ask all of you to avoid as much as possible is sugars in all forms, whether it is simple sugar or it's jaggery or it's honey or it is fructose corn syrup, all forms of sugar to be avoided. Even juices are sugars. Processed food in all forms to be avoided. Wheat to be avoided as far as possible. Repeated use of oils after frying to be avoided. The eating window, I would like all of you to keep of at least 12 to 14 hours food-free period. Ideally, you should be fasting at least 1 day a week. Try to not consume more than 3 meals a day. I think that should be sufficient to cover everything. Now we can take questions for the next few minutes. And if someone wants to discuss something on exercise, I have a full lecture on exercise afterwards. Because you know I'm very fond of exercise. So we can take some questions on exercise also.
The ghee or oil, which is good?
As already mentioned, those
Yes, sir.
people who are insulin resistant, like they have diabetes, and for them, if they take ghee and their LDL rises up, then they should avoid ghee. So if they are saturated, they take ghee and their LDL doesn't rise up, then they can take ghee. So it's not like ghee is bad. It's the metabolic condition the person is having. Then it depends on that.
And what about fermented food, sir?
That's the best form of foods. Fermented foods are the best way of. That is why my best breakfast is sprouts. I always insist all my patients to take sprouts in the breakfast. Full of fermentation, very good bacteria is there, good amount of fiber is there, and very good amount of protein. So they're one of the best forms of breakfast is sprouts. So one of the best
And
foods, fermented foods.
okay. And taking daily sucralose instead of sugar or jaggery, is it good?
The sucralose is not a very good form of sweetener. The best sweetener which can be taken instead of sugar is stevia. The other sweeteners which are allowed are erythritol and monk fruit. But I avoid all forms of sweeteners. The reason being, if you take a sweetener, as your tongue feels the sweet, it will release insulin. It won't know whether it's sugar or not. That will come to know when it reaches the gut. So initial phase of insulin secretion will occur with all sweeteners. So I ask people to avoid sweeteners in all form. But if you want to consume something, either use stevia or monk fruit or erythritol. Sucralose is to be avoided. Aspartame is to be avoided.
Okay. And idli?
Idli is a very good form of fermented food. Only thing you have to cook it, so some amount of bacteria, probiotics are lost, but the postbiotics are still there. Postbiotics, bacterial products are still there. So that is a good form of fermented food. But again, it depends on whether you are using a dal-based idli or a rice-based idli or a wheat-based idli. So if you use a dal-based idli, it's a very good form of protein also. But if you have basically a rice-based or a wheat-based idli or suji ki idli as you call it, then it will have some effect on the sugars. The glycemic index maybe is high. So try to use a idli which is more of dal-based. But still, it is better than the other forms because it is fermented. But not much of prebiotic bacteria left because you always have to cook it. But at least the bacterial products will be there, which will help you out.
One more query. Should we eat full stomach or limit our food intake in breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
This all depends on what your metabolic condition is. If you eat less, then it's not harm if you're able to eat less. There's no harm in eating less. And eating more also is not harmful. If you are not having obesity, if you are not having reflux disease, you can always eat to a full stomach. This is not, in fact, I ask people to eat properly so that they don't have to eat again after 2 hours. You eat a half breakfast and then feel hungry after 2 hours, then that half breakfast is useless. So eat well so that you can spend next to 4 to 6 hours without eating anything. Try to limit the number of meals rather than limiting the quantity of each meal. Unless you are having obesity, then you have to limit the quantity of each meal and limit the number of meals both. For a normal healthy individual, more important rather than limiting the quantity of each meal is limiting the frequency of meals.
Okay.
If someone wants to, they can unmute.
Yeah. Anyone? Any more questions? Anyone?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, sir. Many a times now when we visit to the dietitians, so they prefer that they take the frequent meals.
This is
So-
totally
so what-
wrong. Wrong,
Yeah.
wrong concept.
Yeah, sir. No,
Very
what
wrong.
you are saying is a very good idea because we'll have to take the full stomach meal, and then
Very wrong
then
concept.
yeah. That is
Frequent
true, sir.
meals is
Yeah.
the worst form, the worst thing which has happened to our like diet in the last few decades.
Right, sir. Right. Surya Namaskar is a good exercise, actually.
Yes, if exercise wise we want to discuss, Surya Namaskar has all the components of exercise. It has stretching, it has stability, it has strength, and it has endurance. So
sir,
Surya
per-
Namaskar
per-
is one of the best.
Yeah. And sir, per Surya Namaskar cycle, it will help in burning the calories 25 to 30, sir.
No, if you
What-
want to burn calories, then don't think of exercise. Okay. Exercise is
Okay.
not the way to lose weight. Don't
Okay.
use exercise as a way of losing weight. Exercise is a way of remaining fit or maintaining weight. Okay, so
Okay.
first thing, very be clear, exercise, you will never lose weight. Most of the time it will be maintaining the weight or
Yeah.
maintaining the health. For anything you can do for exercise, try to do at least 250 minutes a week. That is around 30 to 40 minutes a day, at least 5 to 6 days a week.
In a
So
week.
each session of exercise should be at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do, whether you want to walk fast, you want to jog, you want to cycle,
Brisk
you want to do Surya Namaskar. I always advise do at least 4 days of endurance exercise, which is either cycling or swimming or running or fast walking, and at
Okay.
least 2 days of strength training per week. 2 days of
Okay.
20 minutes to 30 minutes of strength training per week, and 4 to 5 days of endurance exercise per week.
Thank you, sir, for wonderful tips. Thank you, Chetna madam.
Thank you, ma'am, for joining in.
Yes.
Dr. Rashesh Diwan sir is also present. He is National GC member. And we just had Dr. Hina Chanwal ma'am speaking here.
Yes, sir.
She is also a National GC member. Rashesh sir.
Chetna madam.
Rasesh sir?
Yeah, I was listening very carefully every word he spoke right from beginning, and what I realized is most of things what we are doing is absolutely controversial than what he told. So we need to learn a lot to adjust our diet and be a healthy person. So, particularly
See, only
the
if you want
only
to take three, four things from this, the first thing I'll ask is to avoid the sugars, processed
yes.
foods, and fried things. The second thing I will ask to take is to restrict the number of meals. If you are able to do these two things, I'll be more than happy.
Probably the tip of having practically only protein diet in the morning probably solves most of the problems because we start working in the morning. We have a breakfast time usually between 6 to 8, and then we start working. So, and lunch is never close by. We never know when we'll get the lunch. So we have a habit of eating something again at 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then again lunch at 1:30, 2 o'clock. So that creates a problem. So I personally believe your tips of asking us to take more protein diet only in the morning, that will solve that problem. We can avoid having meals in another 4 to 6 hours before lunch. And black
There
coffee
is
is still
special.
permitted.
Black coffee is permitted, green tea is permitted, nimbu pani is permitted. If suppose you want to still not avoid something, then you can still take vegetable soup and chas.
Great.
And so these are the things which you can see to overcome that gap, to overcome that hungry sensation which you have between the two meals. You can
Mm.
use these things.
Actually, I myself experience this a lot. See, if I have a lunch at 1:30, usually two roti and sabji only. By you're working at 5:30, 6 o'clock, you start feeling so much hypoglycemic that you are craving for something to eat. That happens very frequently. So probably more
The
protein will help more.
hypoglycemia is actually not there. It is our inability to use the fat stores which we have, because
Yes.
we have been so tuned to eating. So whatever we use is cash. We take food, we use it. We take food, we use it. Instead of the
Mm.
using the bank balance, which I tell my patients that you have a lot of fat stored in your body. Only thing your
Mm.
cashier, this the mitochondria, is not working properly. So it cannot encash that fat which is stored. So once you develop that habit of overcoming that hunger sensation and then allow your mitochondria to be strong enough, start using that fat and beta oxidizing that fat, or asking the glucose to go into the mitochondria and going to the TCA cycle, the Krebs cycle, all those things, then you will be able to have a gap of 6 hours between two meals. Even
So
8 hours
actually,
between two meals can be possible. It is you have to train your body for the same. You
that's
can,
right.
because we have not trained. We have not trained. We are not trained our body. That is
It's
why
the
we suffer
mindset.
also from all this.
It's the
Yes,
mindset
lifestyle.
that 5, 6 hours have gone and we are feeling hungry. We need to eat
Yes.
something. We feel we are hypoglycemic, and
Uh,
you eat. And then you take dinner again at little late, 8:30, 9 o'clock.
yes.
So that's a bad
So
habit.
already have 5 to 6 meals and your insulin
Yeah.
levels are continuously high. And for many people among that is responsible for diabetes and blood pressure and insulin resistance and what else, all the lifestyle diseases.
Yeah, I understood a lot about the animal protein and plant protein. But the milk you said, one glass, maybe 200 ml, gives 8 gram protein. I'm very happy to know that. I never take
I
milk.
may not be very perfect in remembering, but milk has a reasonable amount of proteins. Around a glass of milk will have reasonable amount of proteins. So a glass of milk with whey protein will give you around 25 grams of protein in the morning.
No, plain
Or
plain
even a
glass
dry
of
fruit, milk will give you around 8 grams of proteins. Maybe it will be
yes,
5 or 6. I don't remember exact perfect, but it's a reasonable amount of proteins. Plus, if you take a groundnuts or chana, singdana, so all
yeah,
dry fruits
something.
contain around
Yeah,
20 grams
chana.
of proteins per 20 grams of proteins per 100 grams.
We we we,
These
we
are
call
good
it
protein sources.
what is
Very
that
good protein source.
dalia powder?
You can use
Sattu.
dalia, you
What do
can
you call
use chana, you can use
sattu?
mungfali
Sattu.
or
We call it
groundnuts.
sattu.
Sattu is also good. Sattu is a very
Uh,
good form of breakfast. Instead of
yes,
making parathas in the wheat, we can use
sattu.
gram load or sattu load to make parathas.
Hmm.
Only thing,
Which
the
milk
wheat
you
has gluten.
suggest? Which
Milk
milk
is
you
a
think
very
is the
good source.
best?
There's
Uh,
nothing like cow's milk and is considered to be better because there's more MCTs. As compared to less anti-inflammatory as compared to buffalo's milk, but there are no hard and fast rules. All milks are reasonably good. Nowadays, the problem with milk is not the cow buffalo, it's the problem of oxytocin or the hormones given up to the animal. So still, cow's milk is considered to be better because it is less anti-inflammatory, it is more MCTs, more MUFAs as compared to PUFAs. So that way you can use cow's milk, but I don't feel you should differentiate too much between which type of milk you are having. If you're not
like
tolerating milk, you can use
we
dal
normally have the milk
or
from
dahi.
Amul companies. So Amul Taja, Amul Shakti, Amul Gold, Amul Buffalo,
Ah, so that's
Amul
good enough.
cows.
That's good enough. Cow is a little bit better because it is less and it's more anti-inflammatory. So it is a little bit better. It is a little bit lesser glycemic index, more of MCTs. So it's not, but still any form of milk is better than having morning paratha or khakra or mamra.
Yeah, true, very true. Paratha, kakra, bread, everything is worse.
Bas.
Good, very good. So much. Thank you so much for sharing so much knowledge. We all have the myths. And NSL is practically there is no fixed time. Some day, some other time, some day, some other time. And most, even you are in a corporate sector or you are in an educational institution or you are a private practitioner, timings are never fixed.
Professional hazards.
Yeah, true. But that is we have to live with that. But I
Yes.
like that idea of having protein diet in the breakfast probably solves many problems. Yeah, Chetna, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, sir. So there's one more query. Is chilas a good protein breakfast?
Yes, chila is a very good. It's made of dal. So chila is a very good source of proteins. Very good source of protein. You can have chilas in breakfast. You can have chilas in lunch or dinner also. It
Right,
is
sir.
a reasonably balanced amount of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. But
Yes.
carbohydrates and proteins mainly.
Hmm.
Kavita ma'am, are you there?
Yes. Good evening, everyone.
Dr. Kavita Lalchandani, President-elect ISA GSP branch.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Hina madam, Rasesh sir.
Good evening.
It was an excellent session, Ashish sir, and very good information we received. And it was really eye-opening that what we should eat and what we should avoid the things. Because we more focus on parathas and all this. That was a good session. And thank you so much, sir, for this informative session.
Bhadresh sir. Bhadresh sir. Dr. Vipul Gandhar. Dr. Vipul.
Good evening, all. It was a nice lecture and informative session.
Do we have Dr. Kandoi with us? No.
And Dr. Jitin Trivedi. And Dr. Bhadresh sir. Dr. Jitin.
I think they are busy with some other activities. So,
Pardon?
Ashish, thank you very much for very informative session. We hope that we will plan something more on laboratory investigations and other
Exercise
parts
also.
of this. Yeah, upgraded parts later on. And I heard you with this obstetric society. So I intentionally put this your lecture in our society, that everyone should come about these pros and cons and day-to-day activities and use. I have started taking proteins in the breakfast only since your lectures, and it is definitely have a good good thought, and it will reflect in my body also. Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you very much, Tarun. I'm very thankful for all of you to spending time so late in the night to listen to me. I'm happy because I always like to give my knowledge and share my knowledge so that we have a better quality
Hey,
of
you are
life.
scientific.
Dr.
You are
Ashish,
you are
may I ask a question?
Ah, yes,
Uh,
of course.
Though we are just concluding the session, but what about cheese?
Cheese
Is
is
a
a very
milk
good
product?
form of it's a very good form of probiotics. It is a very good source of proteins. So it's a very good break. It's a good thing. Only thing is little bit processed, but then we have to accept that thing. Okay, like even milk is processed. The milk which you drink is processed
Yes.
because pasteurized. So, but still, it is much better than the other processed foods which you are eating. So we can. It's not ultra processed. So you
Mm,
can have foods which are processed and which are ultra processed. So this is not ultra processed. This is processed.
mm,
Still, cheese has good amount of probiotics and very ideal amount of proteins.
mm.
It's a good product recommended.
Good. Yes, good. Particularly for vegetarians, it's a good source.
Ah, very good. And probiotics, they are probiotics. So probiotics, as someone asked me, is if you can eat probiotics, you will remain healthy for a very long time.
We have seen very high protein content yogurt available nowadays. Particularly abroad, it is available. It's a high protein content in this milk protein, concentrated. They call it some different yogurt, which I saw in Germany. Uh,
So I'll ask again not to focus too much on the proteins. It's a good amount should be taking so that it's a good replacement. Try to go for strength training because if you take too much of proteins and do not go for any exercise or strength training,
Exercise, yeah,
all
that's
that
true.
proteins will ultimately be converted into fat only. It will be
Triglycerides.
stored in the body as fat. So if you're eating 80 grams of proteins and not exercising, then that protein ultimately 20 grams will behave like carbohydrates only. So
Very
if
good.
you don't exercise and take too much of proteins, so I always first should always exercise and take a reasonable amount of proteins.
We had a session in Indian Society of Anesthesiology in the last week from 1st to 5th of April. So there was a competition of how much you walk, and there was a common platform application we had used, and everybody was being recorded there. And Chetna got the third number among the girls in the whole
That's
country,
good. That's very good.
and first in Gujarat. So that's a
Yeah,
good way of
that's a
Thank you,
exercising.
good
sir, for mentioning
way.
here. It's for
Walking
the
is
city
the
branch and for
best
the
way
state
of
branch.
is the best form of exercises because if you talk of exercises, I always ask my patients to go for vigorous exercises. By vigorous exercises, you're not going to lose weight. You'll just feel more hungry. If you really want to lose weight and maintain your health, brisk walking is the best way of doing it. Best way of doing of losing weight, maintaining health without any injuries than brisk walking.
Great, great tip. So that's where I don't have any misunderstanding. I'm been doing it. Only I'm very not as good what you said about the diet. So I'll have to modify
But
it now.
the main problem with us is not walking. The main problem with us is lack of strength training. We don't do any strength training, and because as you grow older, you are going to lose muscles, you are going to lose bones, and by the age of 70, you become prone to fractures. So the best thing you can add to your exercise regimen nowadays in India is strength training. At least 20 to 30 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week of some sort of muscle exercises. Walking is not a very good form of muscle exercises. It will help
True.
it's a good cardiovascular exercise, but it's not a very good muscle exercise. So if some people who are thin, I have asked them to avoid too much of walking because you're going to lose muscles if you walk too much. So don't overdo anything, but add strength training. So if you eat proteins, add strength training.
Good.
Start lifting some weights, start doing some push-ups, start doing some squats, start doing some planks, start doing some lunges. This all can be done at home. There's no need to go to the gym to do it.
Mm.
Lunges, planks, push-ups, squats, all can be done at home. And this is
Mm.
missing among Indians. We can walk, we do not do strengthening.
Mm.
So I have a quick question for people. Who is the magician amongst all who's present here? Something out of the way. चावल को में से बर्फ कैसे बना सकते हो?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm finding a magician amongst everyone present here. So I'm asking a question. चावल में से बर्फ कैसे बना सकते हैं?
निकाल दूं.
Right, sir. Okay. So I think we all think that we don't have time for healthy eating, but then we'll have to take out time for illness. So I think we should all focus on good nutrition to prevent 95% of all diseases. Since we all multitask, so for the sake of health, we need to focus on 4-letter mantra. We are healers, but we should focus on the 4 letters heal. H for healthy lifestyle, E for efficiency at work, A for achieve in all grounds, and L for live and let live. So we can't control everything in our life, but we can control what we put into our body. So that's where good nutrition comes in, and that's why it creates health in all our areas of existence. So we should eat to live and not live to eat. So good nutrition will prevent all these diseases, and that should be our motto. One more thing is important, that we always think about our finances and bank accounts and stocks and everything in that way. But the best saving in our life is our health. So a diet is also a bank account, and good food choices are good investments. So we should focus on good foods and healthy lifestyle. So eat well, live well, and be well. So thank you everyone for
Our
being here.
next
And I would
topic
like
will
to
be on
invite
that
Dr.
only.
Tarun Vaghela sir for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ashish and Chetna and all participants. You have taken your time for almost 1.5 hours for this wonderful session. I think those who have attended the session will definitely modify their dinner or lunch or any meals. And next session will be on this financial freedom. This is nutritional freedom, or whatever you call it, nutritional health being, or first heal of H. Now we want money also for that. So next session will be for nutrition, that nutrition to retirement planning. It will be taken by the Dr. Gajjar sir from Bharuch. So again, thank you very much, and we will let you know the dates and time of this next lecture. Thank you, Chetna, and thank you, Ashish, and thank you, Rasas sir, Hina madam, and all GSB platform delegates. We have started this since this December, and every month we are doing some activities on under the banner of GSB ISA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish sir, and thank
Thank
you, GSB.